In the next few minutes, I'll show you how to unlock a whole new level of AI performance in your workflows or just AI outputs using JSON Context Profiles. I'll show you what it is, how it works, and how you can implement it right after this video. And if you stick around, I'll also show you a system that we built for one of our clients where we use JSON Context Profiles and we were able to automate the work of the entire team within the company. If you don't know me yet, my name is Mike. I run Verticulate, a systems and operations agency where we've helped tens of clients globally from startups to enterprises eliminate waste in their processes by implementing AI workflows and also better systems within their company. So let's dive straight into what JSON Context Profiles are about and how you can use them to your advantage. So in this video, what I want to cover is three main topics: what JSON Context Profiles are, also what is the difference between standard prompts versus JSON Context Profiles, and also how you can implement it for yourself. So what are JSON Context Profiles? In simple terms, a JSON Context Profile is a simple way to tell the AI things like what the goal is, who's involved, what information it can use, and what rules it has to follow. And there's a scientific reason why JSON context works so well. And the reason is that LLMs were trained on the internet and they've seen JSON structure millions of times as they look at the words you give them to try to predict the next best word. So when the AI model sees your JSON context profile, it recognizes that this is structured information. And because it's seen patterns like this before, it can make better predictions. And we've seen it across hundreds of AI workflows that we've implemented for our clients, that this consistently increases the quality of the output, which helps you push things into production and also lets the AI workflows work at scale where you have thousands of runs maybe every month to just keep the consistency like it should be so it can work within a company as well. And why does this matter? Because when you're building AI agents or automations or just trying to get better output from ChatGPT, you're going to need consistent, reliable outputs where text prompts won't cut it. And there's scientific research behind it as well, where people have went ahead and tested different types of prompts, and they've seen JSON prompts consistently give very high quality output. And I can link this research below this video as well in the description, so you can take a look at it. So on a very high level, the difference between a text prompt and a JSON prompt or JSON context profile is you're giving the AI information in a JSON format, right? So this would be like a simple text prompt, and this would be a JSON prompt. And you can also call it a JSON context profile if there's a lot of context, which in this case, we have context for writing a blog article. So what is the difference between standard prompts and JSON context profiles? So as you saw in my previous example, the text prompt is sort of like simple text that you feed to the AI, which is how most of your prompts are probably going to be structured. And this is an example of a JSON prompt, which can also be called JSON context profile, since in this case, we're giving the AI a lot of context to work with in the next workflow. And the basic premise of this is that when you're starting out an AI workflow, then the output is going to have a lot of variance. So like if you can imagine that at the top you have like high quality outputs and here you have low quality. So in the beginning, there's a lot of variance between the outputs. So some outputs can be good, some outputs can be in the middle, and some outputs can be really low quality. And the way to really improve that is to use prompts in JSON and specifically giving the AI context in JSON. So in this example, we have a workflow for one of our clients where we're creating SEO outlines. This is just one part of the workflow, of a bigger workflow that outputs content on a consistent scale. And as you can see here, there's quite a lot of things in here added since we've modified this prompt. And the basic premise is that with JSON context profiles, you're able to make this output really consistent. And once you start tweaking it, you'll get to 80%. And then in the end, you'll have this 20% left, which you have to really tweak. But with JSON context profiles, as you add more context, more things the LLM needs to know, and more instructions in a more detailed, structured way, this output variance is going to decrease dramatically. And when you have a workflow where you have hundreds or even thousands of runs per month, this consistency is going to be super critical to be able to have a workflow that actually produces some value for the team that you're building it for, or for the client that you're building it for. So I have two examples here as well where I've used this standard prompt, which is the exact same prompt that we had in here. So we have the text prompt, and then we have the JSON prompt or JSON context profile, and we have the context profile in just like a text prompt. And we have two examples here. So we have this one, and we have this one, which is a JSON structure. So if we take a look at this first example, we have an outline, right, which it has generated. And when we look at the outline, everything looks good. It's pretty detailed. As you can see, we have all the sections in here, enhancements, SEO strategy, metadata, and then final audit as well. So quite comprehensive and a good outline. But now if we take a look at this one, which is the one that we fed it into with the JSON context profile, in here, you can see there's a lot of small details that you wouldn't maybe notice right away, but you'll notice when we start going into it. So if you compare these two ones, so this is immediately more structured, right? Even visually. And then we have the outline. So in here, as you can see, there is information in here, but if you take a look at this one, this is way more in depth. So type problem, you have the exact word count, you have the question, and you have the sections in here as well. And for example, important context in here, which is the second section. Client link is placed in here, framed as an objective resource for researching drought-tolerant plant options. So this is another important detail that seems like a small thing, but at scale, this can really start to decrease the quality of the output that you get from the LLM, right? Because you want to have a final output from the LLM at one point once you've had enough iterations with the actual workflow. So this is going to be super important to be able to get that consistency from the AI workflow, right? And so if we take a look at in here, this is pretty much similar, but those small details are going to play a really big difference in getting things into production and getting the workflows to output consistently with good output, and actually being able to at one point also get the AI output and take a look at it and see everything is perfect and then move it to the next step within your process. So that would be the North Star of this process. In the beginning, it's going to be a little bit difficult, but once you really nail down that prompt and you're able to add all of the context that the LLM needs to it, it's going to really be visible that the workflow has improved significantly. Just quickly, if you're enjoying the video so far, hit the subscribe button for weekly tips and tutorials on how to implement AI, systemize your business, or just get better workflows installed in your business. And if you want something like this implemented for your own team or business, feel free to book a discovery call with me and my team in the description below this video to see how we can help you out with anything relating to systems, AI, or operations. So now you'll have a pretty clear overview of what is the difference between a standard prompt and a JSON context profile and how it works, right? You've seen the output and how the output did have small nuances that are going to be really important at scale. And what is the main point that we're trying to achieve here, which is basically just increasing the quality of the output by reducing the variance of the output. So we're trying to get the output into a very stable format where it's outputting exactly what we need every time. So how can you actually do it, and how can you create a JSON context profile for yourself to be able to add it into your workflows or use it in any LLM? So there are three main sections to it. So the whole process is basically, first step would be prompt engineering, then additional context. This is going to be applicable if you have any AI-driven workflows where you're generating some output or some research in previous steps and you want to feed it into next steps. And then you want to feed it into the JSON context profile as well, and then generate an output including from that prompt and from those inputs that you shared. And then the last step is really turning it into a JSON. So you would be able to add it into your workflow or just use it wherever you deem it is going to be necessary. So the main steps are, first of all, quite obvious, defining the mission that you want to achieve, then listing all the tasks you want every time, adding all of your preferences, setting parameters, defining the output schema, adding constraints and rules, adding quality checks. This is something that we discovered which really helps the AI outputs. So the core premises, I will get more deeper into it in a minute, but the main premise is you're adding quality checks at the end of the prompt with like a check mark. So the AI would go over all of the output that it has generated and then see if it has followed all the requirements that you have set. And I will show you an example right after I go through this to see how it works. Then for additional context, really important is providing mini examples. So examples of successful output or like a good output that you would want to achieve. Then adding variables and data inputs. And then the last step would be turning this whole thing that you've generated into a JSON. So just asking ChatGPT to turn it into a JSON and then using that JSON context to be able to improve the output of your workflows. So in detail, what you want to do, define the mission. How you're going to do it is giving the model one clear role, one purpose, and one outcome. So SEO outline editor, whose job is to create 1,000 to 1,200 word outlines with strict section caps. So number two, listing the core tasks. Analyze the topic, design H2, H3 sections, apply word count limits, embed one neutral client link, and run a self-audit. Then adding your preferences. So this might be something like a grade 6 reading level, prefer clarity and factual tone, avoid fluff, promotion, AI cliches. Then you want to set the parameters. So neutral, semi-formal tone, UK spelling, max 1,200 words. And this example is very specific to content generation for SEO. If you have some other workflow you want to use it to, just use the same principles, but you'll be able to create the prompt in the same manner. So defining the output schema, how you want the output to be. So if we take a look at the outline that we generated from our previous example, we wanted to have all the instructions there. So we want to have all the sections and then all the subtopics within those H1 sections that we want to discuss about. Then adding constraints and rules. So things like total word count, ban promotional tone, hype, M dashes. M dashes is probably going to be really big because you don't want to use M dashes in your content. That's going to be pretty obvious. And then adding quality checks. So forcing the model to check itself. Is every required field present? Is the total under 1,200 words? Are the headings distinct? Is there only one client link, for example? And then showing mini examples. So this is going to be specific to your workflow. But ideally, if you have a title or you have section titles that you want to use that you've previously gotten from the writers and you want to use those good ones as an example, you can add those in here. And then you'll have inputs. So these are the ones that are going to come from the previous workflow. where you've done maybe your research or some other steps like we have, for example, in here. So in here we have like context input. So we have, for example, placement site requirements, target keywords, target website analysis, placement site analysis, competitor analysis, deep research, target location. So these are all variables that we've gotten from a previous workflow. These can come from your database, or you can generate them using AI as well in some previous steps. And then once you have this, let's say that we went through this whole process, we generated something like this, which is a prompt that we would want to use, or a context profile that we would want to use. Then the next step really would be to go to ChatGPT and then add it in here. So turn this into, right? And then we would add it in here. Just making sure that it actually gives us a JSON. So it's going to start doing it. And now you'll see that all of this prompt that we've generated in here with just simple words and text, it is being transferred into a JSON context profile. So that is how it's going to be looking like, something like this. So we have a clear structure in here. So we have an objective, UR, X, Y, Z. Then we have word count rules, right? We have a proper structure in here. Section budgets, so that's going to be how many words we can use, self-audit, and then in here we have a quality checklist. So this was something that I mentioned in here, which is the quality checks. And this is basically going to be right at the end. So is there no promotional tone on client selling? Are all statistics data cited? Does the tone match? Is there logical flow, natural readability, max H2 sections, etc., etc. So the AI can go in and check themselves that they have met all these requirements and that the output is going to be consistent. So that's JSON Context Profiles. Hopefully you can see how they can turn hours of manual prompt tweaking into a consistent and streamlined output. And if you're ready to cut the busy work in your business and get those valuable hours back, hit the link in the description to book your free discovery call. I'll personally listen and walk you through how you can streamline your operations, cut out the busy work, and save you thousands of hours every year.